Not long ago I pulled some parts out of storage and managed to assemble them into a working computer, with a Core 2 Duo, 4GB of DDR2 and an old ATI GPU for video output. And yes, I do need to put them in a case. But since I have them here, I wanted to put these to the test and see if they work at all in the modern day, and specifically on Linux since I like trying that out on whatever I have laying around here. Firstly, there are so many Linux distributions out there and we have to choose one. So I think it's fair to have a look at one that's a bit different. One I had my eye on for quite a bit is Artix. It is based on Arch, but its main deal is that it doesn't use systemd. Basically, systemd is the init system used on most versions of Linux nowadays. An init system takes care of all the tasks required for your machine to boot up. But the thing is, systemd does a bunch of other stuff besides that. Because of that, some consider that it doesn't fit in with the Unix philosophy of each part doing its own little specialized thing. And while that is where the alternatives that are offered on Artix come into play, we have 4 options to choose from on here: Dinit, OpenRC, Runit, and S6. All these have some small differences between them, but I just ended up settling on Dinit. Next thing to choose here, and one that will heavily impact how heavy the operating system is the desktop environment. So basically the graphical interface of our system, where we do have quite a few options by default. Out of all of these I chose Lxqt. It is really lightweight, and I think on a machine as old as this one, we're trying to get as much performance as we can out of it. And now we get to the desktop and I'm going to go straight into the installer. Since like the online mode is experimental, so I just went with an offline install. And the installer is the same one you'll find on many other Linux distributions, and it is quite simple to set up. I'll go with erasing my entire SSD and I'll go with swap to file. And it crashed. So I opened it up again, and now it works. The username is val, the password is not secure, and we can get the process started. Since all it had to do was just copy the files from the flash drive onto the SSD, it didn't take that long. And after one more restart, we can log in and have a look around. When it comes to resource usage, we're really not using that much. A tiny bit under 600 MB of RAM at idle. For CPU usage, I will be enabling a widget in the taskbar. This is going to show live readings of the usage, and it will go up a lot throughout all the testing. For pre-installed programs, it seems that we have a good selection. We have all the basics you'd see, like image viewer, video player, PDF reader, that kind of stuff. And for browsing, seems like we have the Falcon browser. So let's give that one a shot first of all. We get a bunch of open tabs on first start, so let me just close them. And let's do a web search. I want to see some docs, and this delivers in the quant search engine. Look at all those docs, and look at our CPU usage skyrocketing from us scrolling around. Also, scrolling doesn't feel all that smooth, the frame rate just feels really low, maybe about 15 FPS. Let's keep going and just go on Wikipedia to read about them. And we get to also play a video of one. We got there eventually, but the video did freeze quite a few times. Now, something important to specify and understand is that both this graphics card or the inbuilt graphics of a motherboard of this era are really out of date. Normally, when using your system, you would have hardware acceleration. That means that tasks like playing video or rendering a game get delegated to the graphics card. However, since this one is so old, Linux or any programs running on it don't really support these APIs or codecs that it supports. As a result, the CPU has to do this work as well, and it's really not good and it's gonna eat all of our resources. But this being said, we soldier on and just see how it goes. As a little test, I tried pulling up the WebGL Fluid simulation, but it didn't work in this browser. So okay, time to do a system update and install Firefox. And on here it does work, really slowly, but once we turn it down all the way, it does kinda move. So in this case I wonder how docs work on this one. Appropriately, I'm gonna look up the docs on doc.go this time. And yeah, again we get the pictures just fine. And this scrolling is actually a lot better. Going on Wikipedia as well just feels smoother. And the video playback froze a tiny bit towards the ending, but other than that it seemed to be okay. But speaking of video playback, whenever I get my hands on a device, I'm really curious about YouTube and how that works on it. So let's give it a shot on here as well. For basic 720p and 1080p, I pulled up one of my own videos on here cause I'm a shill. And they seem to work perfectly fine. We get no dropped frames, the experience is just smooth. But then what about 60 FPS playback? I pulled up Big Bug Bunny since there shouldn't really be problems with showing that. And well, the results are a bit varied. I let the video run for about 10,000 frames. For 720p it worked really alright. It dropped about 2.3% of frames, but I don't think most people would notice that even. But for 1080p it dropped 23%, so basically a quarter. At that point, you're better off just not going there. So we just saw that this is alright from some lightweight web browsing, but we have to test more on here, we can't leave it at that. Steam is easy to install on here, so we just install it and we launch it, and wrong. This processor is too old to support Steam. But it's okay, we got this, there are other ways to get games, legitimately. So I went on itch.io and had a look, cause they do have quite a big selection of Linux games. So it turns out that an Ultra Kill demo is one of those games. I saved it to my system and it launches just fine, but it's clear that the CPU is doing all the work. If we turn down all the settings we can and we set the resolution to 800 by 600, it does seem to kinda run for a moment. But when it comes to doing something like punching, it all just goes downhill. So yeah, not playable, especially for something that is this fast-paced. Well, how about the opposite of fast-paced? I remembered that one game I used to play in the past was the super hot demo in the browser. It was released all the way back in 2013, so maybe this will work. But no, this one was even worse. The game is supposed to move when you move, but we can't move, it's too slow. So we barely were just stuck in place. And well, with these two examples I think we can see the level we're at. There is one more shot we have, Stardew Valley. Now remember when I told you that Steam doesn't run on here? Well, it turns out that if you have another Linux machine you can boot Steam on, you can just get the Linux build of Stardew from there. And once you transfer it over, it doesn't need Steam to run, it's got no DRM built in. So we launch it and it actually seems to run okay. We have it here at 720p and the CPU is again pinned at 100, but this actually is playable. It doesn't feel smooth, but I think this is responsive enough that if I were stuck here and I had nothing to play besides this, I would actually get quite far in the game. And now it would be time to draw our conclusions. Did we get a decent experience with Linux on this machine? I would say it's about as good as I would have hoped, if not a bit better. I think to have this working in the modern day to still be able to go online and still play YouTube is a really good thing. I wish I did have a decent graphics card that is supported by Linux so we could see how that runs. But in the future, if I do get my hands on an AMD card that runs well on here, maybe I will give this another go. I imagine the experience would be night and day considering the CPU was just stuck doing everything this time around. But for now, this was it. Let me know if this was an actually usable PC in your opinion. And if you think anything could have been done differently, do let me know. I would encourage you to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to see me messing around with tech in the future. And until next time, see ya.